Happy Friday morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great last business day of the week, or you're looking forward to a great last business day of the week. Called an audible at the last moment here today. We were going to talk about Target, but I decided to shift to talking about Cracker Barrel because it seems like a lot of people were talking about it. And when I say a lot of people, I'm talking on social media. That's where I get my cues from what's happening on social media. So it looks like on social media, a lot of conversation was around Cracker Barrel. So I decided to pivot to talking about them here today. We probably will get around to talking about Target too. But Target's story has kind of been going longer. It's a longer tail. I don't know if this Cracker Barrel story is going to last. I don't know if it has legs. So we might as well use it while the iron is hot. As y'all coming in on TikTok, please like the live. Tell me your location. If you're on Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. Good morning. Good morning. Facebook is Work on Your Game University, by the way, for Facebook users. LinkedIn is Dre All Day. I'm Dre All Day on a lot of platforms. Dre All Day on LinkedIn. I'm Dre All Day on YouTube. Dre All Day on X. Dre All Day on Rumble. I think my name on Rumble is Dre All Day. Let me check. Is it? Yes. My name on Rumble is Dre All Day. My name on YouTube, Dre All Day. I got more than one YouTube channel. Dre All Day on X. Facebook is Work on Your Game University. LinkedIn is Dre All Day. Instagram, Dre Baldwin. TikTok is Work on Your Game. As y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out. Tell me your locations, where you are checking in from. I'll shout a few people out, and then we will get into the material. Let me make sure we are live on X. I was on X earlier this morning, just responding to some posts that I saw people making. Some good, some bad, some ugly, the usual. And okay, so we are live on X. Good morning, everybody over there on X. We got B. Miller checking in from Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. Shout out to the Windy City. Crespo Realty checking in from, you didn't say where you're from, but shout out to you. Those of y'all who are in here, especially you business-minded folks, get into the circle. That is the place where you can get to working with me directly inside of the Work on Your Game world. No, I'm going to put a link to, I'm put the circle in here today instead of just Work on Your Game University. And that would be, actually, circles where you can get started working with me. You get full access to our Dre GPT chatbot. We got a chatbot called Dre GPT. You heard of Chat GPT? Now we got Dre GPT. And Dre GPT is trained on everything that Dre says, talks about, and has been about for a long time. So if you want to get access to that, that's 24-hour coaching straight from me is inside of Dre GPT. And that also comes with access to our coaching calls in the circle. And of course, all the replays to the calls. That's where you can get access, get started, and get strategic about what you are doing business-wise, mindset-wise, strategy-wise, and everything else around that systematically. That's all at the circle. You can learn more about that. Send me a DM. We'll tell you more about the circle, or just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. And there's a button right there that will take you to all the information about the circle. So as y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out. Today's topic is Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel. Y'all know that restaurant, Cracker Barrel. They are rebranding. They've done a rebrand by changing their logo. They changed the inside of the restaurants as well. And I saw some artwork of this. Artwork meaning actual images. We'll get to that in a minute. Let me shout out some people in the comments. IT Burnout. I think you did have the first comment of the morning. Good morning. Congratulations. Traditional All Day. Good morning. Thank you for getting the likes up. I know you encourage people to get the likes up. So we're already at 5,000 likes. Excellent. There's a 100,000 like day, folks, as it is every day. Get the likes up, everybody. Irma V with the number 2 gifted badge already. Thank you, Irma. Good morning. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the building. Shout out to Detroit. Murphy the Mutt, Bristol, Tennessee is in the building. Shout out to Bristol, Tennessee. Kells, thank you for the follow. Irma V said, TGIF. Yes, I agree. Nashville, as always, Courtney, good morning. Shout out to Nashville. Christine, checking in from Charlotte. Good morning, Charlotte. Traditional also from Charlotte. Shout out to Charlotte, North Carolina. Strong representation. Tap the screen, everybody. Let's get the likes up, please. Please get the likes up on TikTok. Murphy the Mutt, thank you for the share. Keys to My Heart said, do I teach on crypto? No, I don't teach on crypto, and this live is not about that anyway. We're talking about Cracker Barrel today. That's a little bit further away from crypto. But you could invest in Cracker Barrel. If you think they're going to come back, now's a good time to invest in Cracker Barrel because their stock price has been down for a long time, headed down for a long time. So if you invest in them now and they bounce back up, you'll make money. That's not financial advice. User 254, Kathy from Arizona. Good morning. Kuya Ben Yasharo from Manson, North Carolina. We have you in North Carolina today. Gary Gray checking in from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Shout out to Cape Cod. I was talking to my friend Lee yesterday. He is also in Cape Cod, not on TikTok. Francis Wright checking in from Florida. Where in Florida are you at, Francis? Florida's a pretty big place. Let's see what we got over here. B. Miller said, circles where you teach people how to do public speaking and have a presence. We walk into a room. Well, anyone I work with, B. Miller, that is going to be part of the conversation. If that's something that you're looking for, if you're in the circle, you have access to me. So your challenges, your needs, where you're trying to go is what we address. So if that's what you're looking for, then yes, that will happen in the circle. My coaching programs are not getting this program. I'm going to talk about this, getting this. Sometimes actually, that's not true. Sometimes I do have programs where I'm specifically talking about a specific thing. The circle and my full coaching programs are custom fit to whomever I'm working with. So if that's what you're looking for, then the answer is yes, that is what you will be coached on. So go to the link in my profile. You'll learn more about that. Art by C. Collins from Newburgh, New York. Your TikTok's not working? Okay, yes, I know Newburgh, New York. Good to see you over here then. J.W. Boardwine checking in from Houston, Texas. Good morning, Houston, Texas. John Fleming from LV Envy. Okay, Las Vegas, Nevada. I got it. All right, so let's get into this topic here today. Cracker Barrel has rebranded themselves. Let's see if we can find the artwork of what Cracker Barrel has actually done. Because did all of you hear about this? I don't know if y'all are as active on social media as I am, but I see this stuff because this stuff gets talked about on social media. So everybody was talking about this over I just noticed this about the last 24 hours. So Cracker Barrel, all y'all know what that is, right? That's the restaurant that looks like, well, I'm looking at their X account. They got 116,000 followers on X. So they're probably not super active on X. Their last post on X was, they don't post on X hardly at all. But everybody knows who they are, right? Is that restaurant that you usually find in rural areas, usually not in the city, just in smaller places. Outside of the cities, often you find them this place, Cracker Barrel. So Cracker Barrel has, and this just came out, it was announced. I don't think they said it because clearly Cracker Barrel is not that active on social media. So what Cracker Barrel did was remove this guy. So Steak and Shake said something. Steak and Shake basically trashed them. Steak and Shake bashed Cracker Barrel. But let me tell y'all, first of all, what happened. So the new Cracker Barrel CEO, she says, let me see if I can hear this.
Honestly, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers.
So the new CEO is this woman named Julie Fells Massino. She's a white woman with glasses. She looks like she's about 50. And I don't know her political leanings, but everybody was trying to make this about politics. So she came in late 2023. So she hasn't even been CEO for 2 years yet. Now, let me give you all some context because I was on some levels defending Cracker Barrel yesterday on social media when a lot of people were bashing them. This is Cracker Barrel's stock price. Right now is at $54.80 per share. Right, so any of you know anything about the stock market, $54.80 per share could be good or bad depending on what the stock is. But if you look closely at this chart, you can see that the numbers were going up and they peaked around 2020. Cracker Barrel's stock price peaked. That was about 2020. But for the last 5 years, if I change the view of this, you see it was all green, right? It was green when you do all because it started at 0 and then it's actually gone up. So, of course, it's going to be green. But over the last 5 years, Cracker Barrel's stock price has been dropping. It's dropped 60% over the last 5 years, as you can see right there. And you see it's red, it's dropped 60%. So the peak of the last 5 years was around April of 2021 when the stock price was $170 per share. Right now, today, if you buy Cracker Barrel stock, it's $54 per share. So if you owned a lot of stock then and you held on to it, then on paper, you've lost a lot of money. But if you hold on to it and it goes back up, or if you buy right now, or if it goes back up and you hold on to it, then you'll be neutral. But if you buy it now at $54, it goes back up to $170, you can make a lot of money depending on how much stock you buy. The point is, Cracker Barrel stock has been dropping since before this new woman came in as the CEO. So a lot of people are trying to say, well, they brought in this woman who is allegedly woke and allegedly on the left. I don't know if she is or if she isn't. But the Cracker Barrel was already headed backwards before she came in as CEO. And a lot of people have not looked at that context. So this is the old logo and the new logo. So the old logo, it said Old Country Store, and they took that away. And they had this guy there, and this guy, I believe, has a name. That image there, you know how you have Ronald McDonald, whoever this guy is. They took him out of it. And let me pin my comment over on Rumble Studio. There we go. They took him out of it, and now the logo is what you see on the bottom. So the logo just says Cracker Barrel. There's no image. There's no barrel. There's no person. And it doesn't say Old Country Store anymore. This is what Cracker Barrel decided to do. This is part of their rebrand. This is their new logo. So a lot of people are talking about this over the last day, and they are mad, allegedly, because of what Cracker Barrel did. So any of you been to a Cracker Barrel, you know the restaurants kind of look like this. It looks like you're inside of somebody's living room or in their kitchen, right? In some suburban area, not even suburban, not even near a big city. So you're probably an hour outside of a big city. You're in somebody's house, their kitchen and living room and dining room may look like this. This is what a Cracker Barrel looks like. Most of you have been to Cracker Barrel before. They're all over the country. They're a nationwide company. And this is what their restaurants used to look like. Now, this is the old way. Now, they have rebranded the restaurant. Now, let me show you what it's going to look like. I don't know if they did this to all the restaurants yet, but this is what they are either are in the process of doing or they're already done. Personally, I'm not a big Cracker Barrel eater, but this is what it looks like now. So they made Cracker Barrel look more like, I don't know, what does it look like? Subway, McDonald's. This is what they changed it to. So this is a more quote unquote modern look. It is a more modern look. I agree with that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. All right, modern and new does not necessarily mean better, whereas classic and old does not necessarily mean bad. We're going to talk about that. So this is what the new store looks like. So if you go to Cracker Barrel now, it looks like this. It looks like, I don't know, this looks like any restaurant in the country you can go to. They all look like this. So Cracker Barrel took away what I will say. They took away what made them unique, which was this. And you know, when you go into Cracker Barrel, they had a little store. After you finish eating or before you eat and you walk in, first you walk into a little store, they have a little shop, and then you go to the restaurant. So it looks like they removed the store too. So there's no store. And you just go straight into eating the food. So they turned themselves into Wendy's or Burger King, basically. So somebody made this post. They said there's only one person on the planet that can save Cracker Barrel. I don't know who this is. I think this is Sydney Sweeney. Is this Sydney Sweeney? So somebody made an AI picture of Sydney Sweeney wearing a Cracker Barrel shirt. That's funny. But I'm trying to see if I can find any more brand designer that worked at Cracker Barrel. Watching them. Okay, so it looks like maybe they have already gone through with this change in a lot of places because I'm seeing pictures of people eating inside of what looks like these newly designed Cracker Barrel. I lost it. Cracker Barrel stores, and they're in there eating. So I don't know if this is AI or they already did this. Maybe they already did it. Any of you been to one of these new design Cracker Barrels? I have not. Again, I'm not a big Cracker Barrel eater myself. And a bunch of people are saying that this is a DEI push. So this guy named Jim Paff or Faff, I don't know what he's called. According to his profile on X, I'm just giving y'all the context here. He is the president of something called the Conservative Caucus. And the Conservative Caucus, they claim that they are conservatives' national grassroots network since 1974. We build state and district organizations to restore America. This guy is the president. He has 62,000 followers on social media. And here's what he said. Jim said, Cracker Barrel stock is suffering under a stupid DEI push. It started with the new CEO claiming that the quote unquote rebrand was overwhelmingly positive. Now, first of all, if you're the CEO of a company and you rebrand what the company is doing, and then you go on TV and somebody asks you, how are the customers responding to the rebrand? What the hell else are you going to say other than they love it? What are you going to say? It's terrible and they hate it? You're basically taking yourself out of the game if you were to say that. So, of course, she has to say they love it. Now, how do we actually know? That's not something you can quantify. So he says that she says the rebrand was positive, but he continues, Jim, numbers don't lie. It was a stupid move because it represents an attack upon its customer base. So Jim is half right and he's half wrong. So he is right in that this is an attack upon his customer base because the reason why it's an attack upon his customer base is because people like Cracker Barrel because it's Cracker Barrel. Again, I'm not a customer, but they have a customer. And their customer like the fact that you get to walk through a little shop before you eat and after you eat. They like the fact that they sell the food that they sell, and Cracker Barrel is what it is. When you rebrand, you are alienating a percentage of your customer base. Now, that might work and it might not work. It doesn't necessarily mean that they did something wrong. But are they attacking their traditional customer? And I don't know if I even use the word attack. I get why he's using it. But are they alienating their traditional customer by changing their layout? Not just the logo, but the layout of the store. And they probably updated the menu too, I would guess. I didn't see much about the menu, but I would guess they probably did that. Did they alienate their customer? Yes, they did. Because if I come to like Cracker Barrel because you're like this, and then you change your whole approach to be like this, then I might decide that I don't want to eat there anymore. That's what happens when you change your approach. For example, back in the days, I used to make all this content based on basketball, how to dribble, how to shoot, how to actually play basketball on the basketball court. These days, as you can see, I'm in a different lane talking about different things. Now, some of the people who were in my audience then are still in my audience now because they have evolved as well. And the things that I do now, business-wise, entrepreneurially, etc., they still relate to. But there was also a percentage of people who were watching me only because they wanted to learn basketball. And when I stopped talking about basketball, they stopped listening because that's what they wanted. I let those people go because I changed what I was doing. I switched lanes. So that doesn't necessarily mean I did something wrong. Doesn't mean they did anything wrong. But is that what's happening? Jim is right on that point. But the other thing that he said was that he says it's a stupid move. That's his opinion. He also says numbers don't lie. And he said Cracker Barrel stock is suffering under a stupid DEI push. This is technically false. And a lot of people have been saying this yesterday on social media and into today. This is false. I just showed you Cracker Barrel's stock. Cracker Barrel stock over the last 5 years has been dipping. It's down 60% over the last 5 years. Everybody can see that, right? This woman became the CEO. Let me make sure I have the exact. Her name is Julie Fells Messina. So let me look it up. Julie Fells. No, I don't want to do that. Julie Fells Messina. Everyone's talking about this woman here. She was named the CEO in. Where is it? Julie Fells Messina. She is the president and CEO of Cracker Barrel. She was named the CEO in July of 2023. She assumed the position along with an appointment to the board of directors in November of 2023. So she hasn't even been the CEO for 2 years. Everybody understand it? She hasn't been the CEO for 2 years. So she got on in November of 2023. Let me show you where the stock was in November of 2023. We're going to pull the exact numbers here. In November of 2023, I'm trying to get as close as I can to it. November 2023, the stock price was $68.69. Right there where that little red circle is. That's where the stock price was in November of 2023. See that little red circle? Is hard to see. But that's where the stock price was. $68.69. Now, before that, in April of 2021, the stock price was $172.03. Let's do some math here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm looking at spring 2021. The stock price was $172.03. In November of 2023, when this woman came in, so we had 172. Remember that number. And then it dropped to 68.69. So 68.69 from 172. That is more than half that they lost in stock value before she became CEO. So if you're going to say that Cracker Barrel is falling because of this woman as CEO, that is false. It was already falling. They were at 172 in 2021. When she took her spot, they were at $68.69. They were already falling. That's what, damn near 2.5 times fall off. So let me do the math on that. So we were at, stock price was 172, dropped to 68. That percentage loss is, do a couple calculations here. So they dropped by an amount of $104. This is about a 60% drop, folks. Cracker Barrel stock dropped from that high, at least in the last 5 years, to where it was when she came on, 60% before she took the job. So you can't blame Cracker Barrel's drop on one person. I've told you all this many times, that when you're talking about big organizations, bureaucracies like the government or corporations or publicly traded companies, Most of their problems and or successes are multivariate issues, meaning there's not one thing that caused everything to go good. There's not one thing that caused things to go bad. Now, of course, people are attacking this woman because they are claiming that she's woke. They're claiming that she is on the political left. I don't know because I didn't see anything about her personally, but let's see if we can find out. Now, let's look into her. So she's a seasoned executive with a track record of success, of course. She has 30 years of experience driving innovation and growth for globally loved and recognized restaurants and retail brands. So let's look at her background. Let's look into what she's done. So she used to be president of Taco Bell, and she was doing that from 2020 till 2023. So she went right from running Taco Bell to running Cracker Barrel. Before that, she was the president North America of Taco Bell. Before that, she was the president international. Before that, she was president North America. So she got promoted from the president of North America to president of the international brand. Then before that, she was the president, SVP, and GM of Fisher Price at Mattel, the company that make the toys. She did that for a year, from April to January 2017 to 2018, April to January. That wasn't a long job. Maybe she got fired. Maybe she just got a better job. Prior to that, it looks like she just took a better job. So we could just put her whole resume together right here. She began a professional career in corporate positions at a variety of retail companies, Godiva the Chocolatier, Coach, J. Crew, and Macy's. So she's been on this corporate track her entire career. And she has a Bachelor of Arts in Communications from Miami University, Ohio. Miami, Ohio, not Miami, Florida. So from 2002 to 2014, she had all these various leadership roles working at Starbucks. So she worked at Starbucks for 12 years in leadership roles. Then in 2014, she got a better job to be the CEO of a company called Sprinkles Cupcakes. Never heard of them, for 3 years. Then she got a better job working as the GM of Fisher Price. She did that for less than a year. Then looks like she got poached. That's a good thing. She got hired away for a better job to be president North America of Taco Bell. Then they promoted her after about 2 years to be president international of Taco Bell. She did that for 3 years. Then she got hired away again to run Cracker Barrel as the CEO. This is her first job as a CEO. Looking at these things, I said she was not. No, actually, no. She was the CEO of Sprinkles Cupcakes. So this is her second role, according to her resume, of being a CEO. And it looks like they didn't say what the data was during the time she was working at these companies. But what we have to admit is that this woman has been elevating and moving up in companies. She's moved up in the size of companies. She's moved up in roles over the years. So does she have a track record of success? It looks like it. I mean, we don't know the exact data, but it looks like this woman has a track record of success. And even though Cracker Barrel has continued to go down since she took her spot less than 2 years ago, they were already going down. And anyone who knows anything about working with big bureaucracies and big companies, you can't turn the company around that fast necessarily. Sometimes it does turn around, sometimes it doesn't. The bottom line, though, is these are always multivariate problems, which means if the company does turn around, it's not because the CEO is some genius. It's because of a whole bunch of other things that the CEO didn't even do, but they get to take credit for it because they're there. Same thing with a president in the United States. They'll take credit for all the good stuff, and anything that's bad, they blame it on the previous regime. It's the same thing that happens in corporate America. So this woman, we don't know. The jury is out on whether this woman is woke or not. I haven't heard anything that says she's woke. There's only this 1 minute clip of her saying that people love the rebrand. Again, any CEO is going to say that. Of course, they have to say that. And that's it. That's all we know about her. So people, allegedly, it looks like Cracker Barrel may be a type of establishment that caters to people who are more on the political right. And people who are on the political right, the customers, they don't like the change. So then they say, who's in charge? Is this woman who's the CEO. And the penalty of leadership is that when you're in charge, you get blamed for everything that happens under your watch. So she's getting blamed for it. They're looking at this woman and they're saying, oh, well, look at her. She's white. She's educated. She must be a liberal. So that must mean that she's woke. And it must mean she's into this progressive nonsense. And that must be why Cracker Barrel is doing what it's doing. I say she gets some responsibility for this, but I can't put it all on her. We don't have enough information to make that conclusion. We just don't have enough information. And a lot of people don't like that to be the answer because people like to have something to blame. Politics demands that there be a scapegoat for every outcome. But the bottom line is, if you're a critical thinker, we don't have enough information unless any of you know something about this woman that I don't know. And I just looked up what they have about her on Cracker Barrel's website. But let's see if we can find out more. So we go to another site. This is called Sportskeeda. And let's see who she is. So in August, today, this article just got updated. And Cracker Barrel CEO said things that you love are still there amid the backlash. So let's see if we can find out exactly about her. So this new logo came out a few days ago. First time in 48 years they have changed their logo. And again, why they're doing this, we need to find out. A lot of people trashed it. A lot of people who look to be on the political right on social media trashed this. And let's see if we can find out. So she was on Good Morning America a few days ago this week. And this is where she addressed the mixed reviews. She says, quote, people like what we're doing. Cracker Barrel needs to feel like the Cracker Barrel for today and tomorrow. The things that you love are still there. We need people to choose us, and we want people to choose us. So let's see if we can find out. So they gave you the background on her. Same things I already told you. Same things I already told you is already in here. In addition to defending the logo and the interior changes, she also announced a new campaign called All the More. And this says it highlights how people feel about Cracker Barrel. Now, this is window dressing, but how can I get a remodel? Where can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list? The buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team. So she's saying that I guess people who run the stores want it remodeled. I don't know. And she says campaign projects the restaurant chain. Campaign projects the restaurant chain is bigger than just a meal. They have a retail shop. So I guess they kept the retail shop. Maybe they redesigned it. Moreover, the restaurant chain has roped in country music singer Jordan Davis, who I've never heard of. I don't listen to country music, to promote the campaign. So Jordan Davis, they got a little press release about Jordan Davis. Okay, this is not telling us much about her. I'm trying to find out who this woman is. Does any of you know anything about this woman? So let's find out, see if we can find out more. Cracker Barrel, all right, everything that I'm seeing in these articles, things I already told you, where she used to work. This is the first change in 48 years, which is significant to make a change. Now, why they're making the change is what we really want to know. Is she really going to tell us? Probably not. So what some people have said on social media, a lot of people are just bashing it. And I get why they're bashing it. So they do have a new menu. So I'm trying to see what they say about the menu. New seasonal fall items to the menu. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they have now Uncle Herschel's favorite sausage and egg hash brown casseroles, bacon and egg hash brown casserole, bacon pecan French toast bake, herb roasted chicken, hash brown casserole, shepherd's pie, slow braised pot roast. Okay. They also added butter pecan sticky buns. Those sound good. I don't like pecans. They had to take the pecans off. Cinnamon roll skillet. I don't know about that. Brown sugar latte. I'm not a coffee drinker. And wild berry tea. So we're not finding anything about this woman. I think she may keep it like this for a reason. So it's not too much about who she is personally. Right now, all the news about her is about the rebrand, and everybody's just bashing it. So as I already said, I'm giving you all the logical context here. We don't have enough information to know where she stands personally. So what's happened here is a bunch of people on the right did jump out the window on X yesterday. Shout out to all you on X. A bunch of people on the right jumped out the window and started bashing the rebrand, which is fine on a brand level. Same way that I bash Sports Illustrated when they start putting fat people on the cover of that swimsuit issue. Y'all shouldn't do that because your brand is about skinny, pretty, model-like women on the cover, not some fat woman who would not be walking on any runway, at least not before all this nonsense came, this body positivity nonsense came to be a thing. Because you're alienating your target or your traditional customer. Maybe you change your traditional customer. That can work. It also can backfire. We don't know yet. We don't have enough information. Now, people on the political left have jumped up and they took advantage of this and said, oh, well, look at all these people on the right crying wolf over Cracker Barrel when y'all are trying to make it. Again, this is what people on the left are doing. They are basically straw manning this whole thing. They're saying that the right is making this about wokeness, or the right is making this about progressivism, or the right is making this about, I don't know, whatever other word you want to use. This is called wokeness because that's the one that people tend to argue about the most. And that's a straw man simply because what they're doing is putting the arguments of a few on the arguments of a whole. They're saying everybody on the right. So let's just say about half the people on the left, half the people on the right, just for sake of argument. And the left is saying, well, all these people on the right are saying this because of this, when it's actually not that. And I say that's not true on the basis of what I just explained. I will bash what Cracker Barrel did simply because they are alienating their traditional customers. Not like this company was, they were already on their way backwards, but it could be several reasons why. Actually, let me not say I'm bashing them. I can't even say that I'm bashing them because if you've been losing stock value for the last 5 years, that means you probably have several issues that need to be addressed. Now, the job of the CEO and the C-suite executives is to address or assess, and accurately diagnose what is actually leading to this problem. If they diagnose that correctly and fix them correctly, then they end up succeeding and winning. If they diagnose incorrectly, misdiagnosis, and or they are wrong in their fixes, then things will keep getting worse. This is the reason why the leaders get paid the money that they get paid. So when someone says something like, hey, why is the regular person working at a company making 1,000 times less money than the CEO, is because of things like this. What the CEO decides to do or doesn't decide to do and how they act upon it affects millions and millions of dollars because of all the stockholders, especially at a publicly held company. Whereas the person who's just a rank and file employee, your decisions don't affect that many people. Therefore, you don't get paid as much because your work does not have as much impact. It's just the reality of the situation. So the CEO of Cracker Barrel or any other company where things are going backwards, they got to look around and say, okay, what are some of the things that we can do to get this company going back in the right direction? It ain't just the logo. They're doing a lot of things. They rebranded the restaurant. They're doing that. They're changing the menu in some ways. They're doing that. And there's a whole bunch of things going on behind the scenes that were not announced on TV that they're also doing to reshuffle the deck of how the company is operating based on their diagnosis of what is causing us to be going backwards. This is the reason why they hired a new CEO in the first place. We're going backwards. We don't like the way things are going. What do we have to do differently to change the situation? Now, if she ends up being right, this woman, what's her name again? Her name is Julie Fells Messina. If she ends up being right, Cracker Barrel's stock price, let's look at it one more time. As we can see, down 60% in the last 5 years, will start to bounce back. If she ends up being wrong, then it will either remain flat and or it won't bounce back up enough, or it will continue to go down, at which point she will be fired. This is the way it works. And again, if you're the CEO, these are the things that you take on. She knows that there's no easy fix to this. If there was an easy fix, they wouldn't need to hire her. They would just fix it already. And you have to diagnose and kind of figure out what this is. So the left is saying that the right is crying wolf. The right is overreacting. They're trying to invent controversy where no controversy exists. Well, controversy exists when people start disagreeing on things. So that's technically not true. So the right is saying Cracker Barrel is abandoning its roots. They are abandoning their roots, not necessarily politically or for political reasons. They're abandoning their roots because the basis of the restaurant was we're like this and you come here because you like this, and they've taken that away. Doesn't matter why they did it. It's the fact that they did it, that they are alienating their roots and they're alienating their core customer who has come to love them for what they are. The issue is, and again, this is not a right or wrong thing. The issue is that Cracker Barrel is saying, well, hey, yes, we are making some changes. And yes, some of you traditional customers may not like us anymore because of the changes that we're making. However, what did I just show you? We got to look at the data. The stock price says, despite the fact that you all have loved us for 50 years, our stock price is on its way down. So you all who are core customers and love our restaurants and don't want us to change, you all understand that if we don't change, we're going in the wrong direction. And nobody's going to be able to eat because we won't have a restaurant and we keep going backwards like this. So while you may not want us to make a change, we have to make a change because change is necessary for us to undo what's happening right now in our stock price. And we are a publicly traded company. So we have to respond to what the stock says and what our shareholders say and our board of directors says, while at the same time, we still want to serve our customers. So there's a give and take here. And this is the reason why there is no black and white answer to why this is happening. Because if there was, again, it would have already been solved. They have to give something up in order to get something, and they might be right about what they're giving up and getting, and they might be wrong about it. And again, you want to be a CEO, these are the kind of problems that you got to resolve. You want to be a head of a country, these are the kind of problems you got to resolve. If they were easy answers, then everybody would have already solved the problem. There's no easy answer to this. Some of my customers are going to be pissed off. Some of my stockholders are going to be pissed off. The board of directors might not like what I'm doing. The everyday public person like me who doesn't even eat a Cracker Barrel, they all got something to say. This is what you deal with when you're the person in charge, especially at a big organization. And again, if there was an easy answer to it, then it wouldn't be such a coveted position. Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? So when you get on social media, and I've seen this on social media for the last 24 hours, everyone's trying to make this into some black and white, like there's a clear line here, and if you're on this side, you're right, and you're on this side, you're wrong. No, that's not the issue. There's a multivariate issue. There are 30 different things happening at Cracker Barrel that is causing their stock price to drop. Not one thing. And it's not what anybody's saying on social media that is the accurate diagnosis of the situation. They're generalizing the entire issue to make it easier to argue about, which is what social media is about, by the way. I mean, I'm not knocking the concept, because if that concept didn't exist, then I wouldn't be talking right now. I'm using their illogic for my own content. Okay, so I'm using them the same way that they're using me. But at the same time, if I was working in Cracker Barrel, if I'm in a meeting with the board of directors of Cracker Barrel right now, I'm going to establish the baseline, which they probably already know. Okay, you all understand there's like 27 different issues that we had to look at here before we decide what to do, what not to do. And we had to measure a whole bunch of different things to find out what's working and what's not working. All of you understands that, right? They would all probably nod their heads in agreement, and then we can get to work. But if it was simple as just one person pushing one button, then they could have solved this with fucking chat GPT. So the truth is not black and white, as I already explained. Their stock has been declining since before the CEO came in. A logo change is a common move under new leadership. Why? Because it gives the company a new look. It's something that you can announce to the public. And announcing it to the public does matter because public response to something that you do can lead to a quick change in your stock price. Doesn't mean that's going to remain that way. That's another thing that we should address while we're here. Because yesterday, a lot of people were saying, well, their stock price dropped this much on the day that they made the announcement. And it did. Their stock price did drop the day they made the announcement. So they made the announcement on. So I want y'all to look at the last 5 days of their stock price. So see that dip? That was what happened the day that they made the announcement. See that dip right there? When they made the announcement, the stock price went down. So that was on. This was, what day was this? So 19th, 20th, 21st, whatever day this kind of went viral, that's when everybody started reacting to it. So on the 21st or the 20th, doesn't give me the exact day here. I'm just looking at the stock price on DuckDuckGo. So it was at $59 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or around the 21st. It looks like it's about the 21st. Then by, maybe that was the 20th. Then by 11:45 the next day, it went from $59 down to $50. So the stock price dropped $9 over the course of less than 24 hours. This is what everybody was reacting to. Look, their stock price dropped so much and so quickly, and people were saying this as if they were making a point. Yes, it is a point, but it's also not a point because some people, let's say if you're a day trader or something like that, you may have made an immediate sell or immediate buy of this stock for a different reason depending on your investment strategy. But that was at 11:50 a.m. It was at $50.57. By 4 o'clock p.m., I believe this is on the 21st, which was yesterday, it was up to $54.47. So the stock price was actually starting to bounce back. It's starting to go back up. I would guess, if you just ask me my opinion, here's just the last 24 hours. As you can see, it went down a bit, then it started to come back up. It's probably going to go back up to where it was. Just the announcement of that logo is not enough that's not a long-term thing. The long-term thing is you got to look at a picture like this one. This is the last 5 years. This is really what you need to be looking at. I'm not even going to say that. So let's continue. So to suggest that one design tweak explains years of declining stock or cultural shifts is simply lazy analysis. It's not even analysis. I'm being generous even calling that analysis. Most people just react. They don't think. I'm talking on people on both sides of this argument, if you even want to call it that. Every corporate move these days is weaponized as a way of basically affirming or going against a larger agenda. So Cracker Barrel making this change because Cracker Barrel's customer base, I would guess, probably leans conservative. Would y'all probably agree? The Cracker Barrel's customer base probably leans conservative. It seems to be more older, more suburban and rural and white. And it tends to lean conservative, probably. So the conservatives who are their customers are saying, well, we don't like this. And they need a reason why they don't like it. They need something to blame. They could just say it's a stupid company doing stupid things. But when they look at the woman, she's white, she's educated, she might be a liberal, she might be woke. Again, I didn't see anything that said that she's liberal or woke or anything about her political ideology. I didn't see anything that said that she's connected to anything. I didn't see her saying anything. We don't know. And then the political left jump up and say, oh, y'all just go against anything that looks like it's woke, even though that has nothing to do with the situation. So both of them are arguing against nothingness because they're making arguments based on assumptions that aren't proven. So again, if they didn't do this, I wouldn't be talking right now. So I appreciate them for their lack of sense. I appreciate the lack of logic from both sides because it becomes an opportunity for me. But the fact is, there are many factors going into this. There are fewer people going to sit down restaurants these days. Have y'all noticed that? Not as many people sit down to eat. Why? Because we got Uber Eats and we have DoorDash and what's the other places y'all get food from? Grubhub and all these places where you can order food to come right to your house. So people don't go and sit down in restaurants anymore as much as they used to. We're all on our phones. We sit down in a restaurant with 3 other people. Everybody's on their phone. What's the purpose of us sitting down together People don't do that as much. That's declining as far as traffic to sit down restaurants. Competition from fast casual restaurants like the Subways, or let's say something like Sweet Green, these Chipotle, these fast casual places, Shake Shack, places where you can go order food, you wait a couple minutes and you have your food. That's competition in them. There's a shifting customer base. I would guess that Cracker Barrel's core customer leans older. It's an older demographic. Well, those people are dying out. Literally, they're dying out. They're not able to go eat at restaurants anymore because they're not alive. So this younger wave of people, the Gen Zers, I was talking to a Gen Zer the other day. He's like 27. Is that Gen Z, 27? So he's like 27. These people didn't grow up the same affinity for Cracker Barrel. They might want something quicker. They want something they don't have to sit down because they want to grab their food and eat while they're messing on their phone, and they want to move around or get the food delivered to their houses. There's a shifting customer base, and Cracker Barrel is saying we have to respond to this, which makes sense. Now, how they respond is what gets challenged here, not whether or not you need to respond. They do need to respond. It's just what you do as a response. So competition from fast casual, I said, shifting customer base, lingering effects of the virus that happened several years ago. I'm being careful what word I use to describe that. And maybe some attempts at refreshing the brand's image to keep it relevant, quote unquote relevant. Let me talk about that. This is a word that you often hear people under 30 talking about, this word relevant, and or talking about refreshing and rebranding and being up to date and being more quote unquote relevant to the everyday person. Old and classic does not necessarily mean bad. New and changed does not necessarily mean good. A lot of times these days, you see a lot of people, companies, organizations talking about change or doing something new, as if changing or doing something new on its face makes it good. That is not true. Just because you change something does not mean you made it better. You can change something to make it worse. As the old saying goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Now, Cracker Barrel's situation is broke, but again, what part do you fix? There are 1,000 moving parts inside of Cracker Barrel's organization. Which of these 1,000 parts is causing the breakage? How do we know? And then how do we fix it? And then what do we fix it to? All of those questions must be answered. So it's not a simple black and white, oh, let's change the logo, that'll make our stock price go back up and everybody's going to come to our store. No, let's redesign the stores. Maybe that's not enough either. Maybe let's drop the little shops or let's update the shops. That might be a change that they need to do. Maybe it's not. Let's rejigger the C-suite, not just the CEO, but all the other people in the C-suite. That might help. It might not. Let's do this. We don't know. Again, if it was easy, anybody could do the job. That's the reason why a CEO is a CEO. That's the reason why CEOs get paid big bucks, ladies and gentlemen. Any of you ever wanted to know is because they solve problems that are not easy to solve and not easily diagnosed, let alone easily solved. And everything falls back on them if they're wrong. So any of you want to get paid like a CEO, as long as you accept those terms, you go be a CEO somewhere. Now, this is a business facing complex headwinds. People on both sides are reducing this to a talking point, again, as I already talked about. So I didn't even introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. Former 9-year professional athlete, author of a bunch of books. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do is we help people command the room through your presence, through your energy, through your performance, through your structure, through your discipline, all of the logical, conscious things that you know you want and that you want to add to yourself, your life, your business, your work, and your person. You put all those together, fuse them together, it equals a level of presence and energy that's what you really want. Now, you don't want to just make more money. You want the feeling that comes with making the money, the feeling that comes with being known, the feeling that comes with establishing yourself the way you do. We help people create that. Go to the links in my profile. You can learn more about working with me, what we do in our programs. So what I'm going to do is go through a little bit more content. Then we're going to get to the comments. When we get to the comments, if you use any logical fallacies, I will point them out with our soundboard. Let me give you a preview of the soundboard. So I'll give y'all something to look forward to. If you use a straw man logical fallacy, that's the most common one that gets heard here. If you use a straw man, you will hear the following sound. Strawberry cheesecake. If you make a ad hominem attack, where you attack me or someone else on a personal level rather than addressing the actual point, you will hear the following.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
If you use an appeal to ridicule, i.e. you're attempting or claiming to be attempting to be funny, even though your point doesn't logically make sense, then you're going to hear the following. I like your funny words, Magic Man. And if you actually make a really good point that I strongly agree with, I don't even have to add anything to it, then you will hear the following. Now, I want you to be clear that I hold discretion on how I use these sounds. So even if I agree with you, I may not always use the clapping sound. Even if you use a straw man, I might not always use that sound. And use one of the others, I may not do it every time. I will do it sometimes selectively. Sometimes there's so many of certain comments that I can't do it every time because we would add 30 minutes to the stream. We want to be done here by 10 o'clock, no later. So any of you know you got somewhere else to be. We are going no more than 55 more minutes, then we'll be done. So Cracker Barrel's stock decline began long before the new CEO, as I already said. So she cannot be blamed for their stock decline. That doesn't make any sense. Many people on the right want to label this, want to blame this on wokeness. Again, any of you know something I don't know. I haven't seen anything about this woman that establishes that she is quote unquote woke or on the left or her political ideologies or her social leanings. I haven't seen anything about it. All I see about her is what they're saying about her background. But let's ask Grok. Maybe Grok knows. Let's see if Grok knows. Looking at the story around the new CEO of Cracker Barrel amidst the controversy on their rebrand, tell me more about their CEO and her political or social ideology, if you know anything about it, or if there is any publicly available information on this, since many people are trying to label her and their rebrand as woke. But I haven't seen anything that confirms this. Do you have any information that proves or validates this position? All right, so let's see what Grok has to say. Now, Grok usually takes longer than ChatGPT when it comes to thinking about things because it's more going off of current events. And Grok has admitted that it gets a lot of his information from X. And Grok is Elon Musk's, his version of ChatGPT is what it is. So Grok is really good with the image creation thing. I like the image creation thing they have on Grok. As far as this part where I'm asking it questions, I usually go to Grok for current events because it surfaces from the town square of the internet, which is X, while at the same time, it's sometimes a little bit slow. So some are saying that this woman, I'm just reading through Grok's, its reasoning. So it shows you its reasoning process. So we know who she is. And there are no articles, according to them, that state her political views, though a lot of conservatives say that she's woke, of course. And there are conflicting claims. So there are some people on X saying that this woman is actually a Republican. Another post is saying that she's pro-choice and she's a feminist. But I haven't seen anything. So they haven't found any political donations about her. They're trying to browse and find information. So according to Grok, they say, we already know about her background. I already gave y'all all that. About the logo, et cetera, et cetera. So Donald Trump Jr. came out and bashed it as well, the change. Not her necessarily. And stock value, company stock dropped. Yes, we know. And competitors are trashing them. Steak and Shake trashed them. Y'all want to hear what Steak and Shake had to say? Online sentiment has been overwhelmingly negative. There's no publicly available information about her views, affiliations, or stances on issues like abortion, feminism, broader politics, which is what I thought, because if there was, they would have been throwing this everywhere. In interviews, she only talks about business. So this is just people just basically straw manning this woman and assuming that she must be on one side politically simply because they disagree with a decision that she made. So Steak and Shake says the following. This is Steak and Shake, who has 400,000 followers on social media. They said this about 24 hours ago. This is what she said. Steak and Shake, they said. Sometimes people want to change things just to put their own personality on things. At Cracker Barrel, their goal is to just delete the personality altogether. Hence the elimination of the old timer from the signage. This is the guy that used to be in the Cracker Barrel logo. They just took him off. So now there's no person. There's just the text without the person. Why they did that, I don't know. But actually, I do know. I have some theories. I mean, not say I know. I have theories. So heritage is what got Cracker Barrel this far. And now the CEO wants to just scrape it all away. So there's already some logical fallacies in this that I'll point out. At Steak and Shake, we take pride in our history, our families, and American values. All are welcome. We will never market ourselves away from our past in a cheap effort to gain the approval of trend seekers. Okay, so there's a couple straw man fallacies used here by Steak and Shake. First of all, they say people want to change things just to put their own personality on things. That's a straw man right there. They're accusing Cracker Barrel of doing that. And they know damn well that a CEO is not putting their own personality necessarily on a thing at a company that size. That's a decision that is approved of by a whole lot of people. Not the least of which being the board of directors, who has more power than the CEO. They're the ones who hired the CEO. So they're just putting this on a person. But I get why they're doing it. This is PR, but this is logically inaccurate. They say Cracker Barrel just wants to delete the personality altogether. I get why they're saying that. Directionally, they're correct because they did delete the person off their logo. Hence the elimination of the old timer from the signage. Then Steak and Shake says heritage is what got Cracker Barrel this far. And now the CEO just wants to scrape it all away. That's another straw man that they're giving here. First of all, Cracker Barrel did get this far based on their background and their history. That is technically true. The problem is this far, where they are that Steak and Shake is referring to. And again, this is why this is a straw man argument. This far is this. This far is them losing money for the last 5 years, losing stock value, for the last 5 years. This is this far that Steak and Shake is trying to hold against them. So basically what Steak and Shake is doing is trying to basically put them in a double bind. So either if they were to keep with their heritage, they would keep losing money, like you already know about. Or if they were to change their heritage, then they're going to get attacked for changing their heritage. So either way, you lose. Again, do you want to be a CEO? This is the kind of stuff that happens. So now they say the CEO wants to just scrape it all away. Again, Steak and Shake knows better. The CEO does not make these decisions unilaterally. They have a board of directors they answer to. That literally is the CEO's boss is the board of directors. CEO is not the owner of a company, by the way. Sometimes it is, often it is not. Publicly traded companies, the CEO is a job, just like the maintenance man is a job. So at Steak and Shake, they continue. We take pride in our history, our families, and American values. So here they're criticizing Cracker Barrel without actually saying it, as if Cracker Barrel doesn't do that. All are welcome. Again, they're saying it without saying it. We will never market ourselves away from our past in a cheap effort to gain approval of trend seekers. So this is a moral high ground. It's a straw man fallacy. They use about 5 straw men in a 2-paragraph statement. I'm giving y'all that. I'm being hyperbolic and pointing it out, but I'm not wrong. This is what they do. And this is what happens when you're in public like this and you have this much of an audience, is that people will attack you for what you did as if what you did was wrong, when as if you did nothing, you would still be in the wrong because you were already in a bad spot. So when your company is failing, you take over a struggling company as a CEO, you're going to get criticized no matter what you do. Any changes you make, they're going to criticize that. If you don't make changes, they're going to criticize you for that. And they're going to find a way to blame you for every single thing that occurs. So again, any of you want to sign up for this job, go sign up. So many people on the right want to tie this decline to quote unquote wokeness. But again, the timeline doesn't support that. I already told y'all that. Logo updates under a new CEO are normal. Companies often do this. It's a symbolic change to show people that we're going in a new direction and we're doing something different. That's the way you can let the public know about it. Because Cracker Barrel could have made a whole bunch of changes behind the scenes that none of you would know about and I would not be talking about. But by changing the logo, everybody sees it and everybody can talk about it because we can all understand a changed logo. If they say we're changing the way we do our pay structure, or we're changing the organization of our executive suite, that probably wouldn't be news and we wouldn't know about it, even though it's actually happening. But changing the logo gets the public talking about a thing positively, or in this case, negatively. So it's easy to get it across to the everyday person. So rebranding is one of the oldest plays in the corporate handbook, that you rebrand, you announce to everybody we're doing something different. McDonald's has done this. Big companies do it all the time. Apple has done this. Cracker Barrel is doing it. Target has done it. All big corporations, when they're looking to shake things up, they will make a public announcement of something they're doing different as far as their established brand and what you have come to know them from. This is not new. So people on the left are saying any criticism of Cracker Barrel is just right-wing hysteria. That's also a straw man. It's basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They're taking it to the absurd absolute. And they're missing the legitimate concerns about brand identity and customer loyalty. There is a legitimate concern about that. Is that you have a customer base that you don't want to alienate, while at the same time you need to update yourself while keeping your main customers. That's the trick. The trick is, if you've been around for a long time, you got a bunch of customers, you don't want to alienate your customers, because the customers are the ones who bring money. And when you bring money, you have a business. No money, no business. You don't want to alienate your customers, but at the same time, you need to update what you're doing to match the changing times, especially when your company clearly has let you know, the market has let you know that what you're doing or what you've been doing ain't working anymore. All right, right there, it's telling you it ain't working anymore. We have to make a change. While at the same time, we don't want to change so much that our core customer base doesn't like us anymore. That's the catch-22. How do you figure that out? Again, this is why the CEOs get paid big bucks. So loyal customers do care about brand signals, even if critics exaggerate. This is what the people on the political left who are trying to straw man the right, this is what they're getting wrong. They're saying that the people on the right are creating something out of nothing and you're fighting against ghosts and you're arguing against something that didn't even happen. That's wrong. Now, their reason saying that the CEO must be woke is incorrect because there's no information that proves that she's woke. Maybe she is, but there's nothing that we found publicly that says that the woman is woke. So it's not that people should be mad that she is quote unquote woke. But if people want to be mad because Cracker Barrel is taking their traditional approach, their traditional brand image, and they are taking that away to create a new brand image, you can definitely criticize that. You don't even have to be a customer. I'm not a Cracker Barrel eater. I'm not a customer. If I'm out somewhere and I want to eat and I see a Cracker Barrel and I see 3 other restaurants, I'm probably going to one of the 3 other restaurants. I'm not a big Cracker Barrel fan, personally. I don't like that heavy, syrupy, greasy food. I just don't like eating that kind of food. So I'm not a Cracker Barrel customer. However, I can criticize what they're doing because they do have a customer base. And their customer base are people who do like that heavy, greasy, Southern food. And if you alienate those customers, you may be costing yourself money. That's a bad idea when you run a business. You can't cost yourself money when you run a business. You want to be making money. So the criticism is legit. The reason for the criticism is wrong for the people on the right. If you're on the political right, I'm talking to you. You are legit to criticize them, but your reason for criticizing based on a woman being woke or progressive or any of that is incorrect because there's no evidence that says that that's what she is. We don't know unless I don't know something. If you're on the political left, you're wrong because you are saying that they are chasing the ghost and making something out of nothing. That's not true. Now, they are wrong for making it about the quote unquote woke, but they're not wrong for criticizing the business move because, again, you alienated your customer base, which I've said 3 times already. So both sides are wrong for different reasons because most of these mofos out here, I'm talking about everybody, most of these mofos out here are not critical thinkers. They don't understand multivariate problems and they try to boil things down to one simple thing as if that's the reason why something happens when that's never the case, especially not in big businesses. So business headwinds are real. All right. Sit down chains are struggling. All right. Fast casual is kicking a lot of sit down restaurants asses right now. A lot of times when we want food, we go and get the fast casual thing, which we can get in and out rather than sit down and have the waitress come and order the food. Then we got to wait 20 minutes for the food. Then we eat the food. Then the waitress has to come back with the bill. And then they're trying to ask us to tip them when they didn't even do that good of a job. It costs more money. It costs more time. And people are just moving faster these days. That's a headwind for a sit down restaurant. Every sit down restaurant has to deal with this. Cracker Barrel is not the only one. They're all dealing with this issue. Inflation, of course. Inflation means the cost of the food has gone up. Any of you know anything about the food service business? Just like the food business, period. The food business, like a grocery store, they always have very small margins. And when inflation hits, meaning they have to spend more in order to get their goods, they have to charge more to the customers. That's hurting the customer. And this becomes a whole issue, like the cost of eggs, as has always been talked about proverbially. Then with a sit down restaurant, they have even more issues, or they have other issues. First of all, their sourcing costs. Any of you know anything about the food business? You know anything about working at a bar, for example? Bars know exactly how many drinks should be made out of one bottle. So if they have a bottle of Grey Goose, they know that for one bottle of Grey Goose, we should be able to sell 18 drinks. And if they realize that a bottle of Grey Goose is gone, that means we should have sold 18 drinks, and they check their receipts. We only sold 15 drinks. They just lost money on that bottle. Everybody understand that? When you control your costs, you understand these numbers. So you know if you run a bar, that bottle of Grey Goose is gone. I mean, we should have sold 18. We only sold 15. That means we lost the money that we should have made on those 3 drinks because somebody's either overpouring or somebody spilled some of the Grey Goose or something happened that is not being documented. That's costing us money. And a bar can only lose money so much before they are in trouble, serious trouble as a business. Same thing when it comes to the food, the chicken wings, the French fries, the ketchup, the mayonnaise. They know how much all of that stuff costs. And if inflation hits and that stuff starts costing more money, we either, or most of the time, they got to raise their prices. And if you raise your prices, what happens? Customers stop coming. So these are all the things that they have to worry about on top of the fact that they got a bunch of staff. Grocery store has staff too, but restaurants even more pernicious because they got all these people working there who are making money by the hour. They make money. A lot of their money comes from tips. And now they're saying, hey, I need a living wage, boss. I'm equaling out to about $15 an hour with my tips and my salary. I need $25 an hour because my rent costs this much and my childcare costs this much and my insurance is this much and my healthcare is this much and my gas costs this much. I need to make $25 an hour. Okay, how are you going to make $25 an hour? Well, either I got to pay you more or we have to charge more on the menu so that your bills are higher, so that the tips can possibly be higher. And eventually, there's a squeeze. I'm either squeezing my customer, I'm squeezing my employee, I'm squeezing our costs, or we're squeezing the entire business, and we may end up out of business. All of these are moving parts that have to be resolved when you run a business, when you run any type of organization. So they have all of these shifting demographics. Also, at the same time, a company like Cracker Barrel, their customer trends older. When I've been into Cracker Barrels, it tends to be older white people. That tends to be what I see in Cracker Barrels. That accurate, usually older white people, generally outside of urban areas and probably leaning more conservative. That's just my theory. So these people are getting older. All right, they have a shifting demographic. They have to somehow, some way relate to a younger demographic while at the same time not completely alienating the customers that they already have. Again, you want to be a CEO, sign up for it. You can solve these problems if you can figure it out. And if you're wrong, you're going to get tarred and feathered and everybody's going to know about it. So oversimplifying this to being woke versus conservative ignores the reality of all the variables in play. I've laid out several of them here. There are a bunch of others that I don't even know about because I don't work inside of Cracker Barrel. So the economics of their business, which we don't know, their supply chain issues. Supply chain just means, okay, where do we get the bread that we use to make what are those things called? The muffins. We make corn muffins with this stuff. Where do we get this stuff from? How much are they charging us? Do we got to pay tariffs because of Donald Trump? Do we have to pay extra to the drivers? How are we going to make this? Do we need new updated equipment? Do we have the cooks? Can we hire the cooks? Are they making enough money? Can we charge enough to make money on this? Does it make sense to keep this on the menu? If we take it off the menu, it'll save us money, but at the same time, it'll piss off our best customers because they love it. Even though it's costing us money, we want to serve our best customers. How do we solve this problem? All right, this is why people in these positions have trouble sleeping at night because there are no easy solutions. And they know if they're wrong, then their head's on the chopping block. This is presidents, this is CEOs, this is bosses, these are heads of households, these are people who run any type of organization that involves people. You have a bunch of moving parts. As soon as you put people in a situation, you get moving pieces. People being your customers, your employees, your staff, the general public, the press, the social media talking about you. You get all these moving parts and all these different issues, and no matter what you do, somebody's going to have a problem with it. There's no one right answer that pleases everybody. There isn't one. So both sides are guilty. I'm talking the left and the right here of cherry picking, quote unquote, facts. Most of them are not even facts, theories to try to score points on social media. And again, I appreciate these folks because they provide content for me. I can explain why all of them don't know what they're talking about. And social media debates, they reward dunking on people. That's what this is all about. Social media debates are about how can I dunk on somebody or make some point that a bunch of people who don't think critically can agree with, or maybe somebody will disagree with, and then I'll disagree back, and it becomes this whole thing, and it basically generates its own momentum. Somebody makes up a point that is not true. Someone else comes in, like me, and says that's not true. Then somebody comes back at me, and then there's this whole thread of conversation based on a whole bunch of nothingness, and social media is making money off this the entire time. You want to blame somebody, blame them. But at the same time, we can thank them because if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be here talking about what I'm talking about here today. So we appreciate social media. Thank you, social media. All that being said, everybody, let me get my soundboard ready and let's get into the comments. I'm trying to think if I should take a quick bathroom break. Let me take a restroom break here, folks. Quick restroom break. Give me 90 seconds and then we will get into the conversation here today. I'm pretty sure if y'all like this sound, strawberry cheesecake, you're going to hear plenty of it today. Give me 90 seconds. Let me take a quick restroom break. Then we get to the comments. Strawberry cheesecake. All right, here we go. We are already at 92,000 likes. Thank you to everybody engaged in getting the likes up, and especially to the moderators. I know y'all been pushing people, keeping your foot in their behinds to keep liking the live. So thank you everybody who's been liking the live here today. Psyops on YouTube said people can't afford to eat out. But that is becoming a reality for a lot of people, and that matters. People can't eat out, and you run a restaurant, you got a problem. So, yeah, you got a big problem. And how do you solve that problem? So let's see. So TikTok, I'm starting at the oldest comments that I can see and going to the newest ones. I can't see all the oldest comments and going as far back as I can. I'm not ignoring your comment. This is live. This is not AI. I will respond to your comment. Do not spam my comments. Do not troll my comments. If you do either one, you will be blocked. All right, let's get to it. So TMP said, excellent Southern food. I agree. For people who are big into Southern food, I think Cracker Barrel embodies that, or at least they did. I don't know how much they're changing. Hernan Nadan says she's Jewish, not white. Okay, fair enough. I don't know if she is or not, but let's just say that she is. You know the thing said, don't buy stock in restaurant chains, period. I would disagree with that advice. What you want to do is you want to find a company that maybe, again, this is not financial advice. This is not investment advice. Find a company that is undervalued right now that you think their value is going to go up. So let's just say their stock price right now is $50. You think the price is going to go up to $100. You invest in it now. When the price goes up, you double your money. So some restaurant chains are still going to do well. It depends on which ones. Now that requires you to decide. That comes down to your discernment. Again, this is not financial advice. Hokage, thank you for the follow. TNP says, simple blame the last 4 years on the racist leftards. Yeah, sounds good. Britt said, I think the guy is old timer. Is that his name? I thought he had an actual name. I saw somebody say it yesterday. I don't remember. American Made said the same without a person. Yeah, I think they should have kept the person. Personally, I think they should. But hey, maybe they end up being right. Let's be clear here. Cracker Barrel may bounce back and go up double what they were before. Abbott says $700 to remodel. Stock market loss, $257 million in 1 day. Total loss, $957 million. $700 million to remodel. Is that an accurate number? Where'd you get that number from, Avid Hiker dude? If that number is accurate, we can talk about it, but I need to know the accuracy of that. Someone in my live stream said that Cracker Barrel spent $700 million to remodel their stores. Is this true? And is their remodel complete? Also, did they do this to all of their stores or just some of them? All right, so I'm gonna fact check what you said about the $700 million remodel. That could be accurate. I mean, if they remodel every single store, then $700 million sounds about right. So Grok says yes, that is correct. So they spent $700 million to remodel, and the exact allocations are not fully broken down in public sources, but they announced $700 million. So that's what she said is going to take fiscal year 2025 to 2027, and each year is going to be about $200 million each year to get this done, and the most money is going to be in the last year. So they want to modernize the image, improve guest experience, and address declining traffic. So they're down 16% year to date as of August 2025. So there's just fewer people coming in the store. So the remodel program is ongoing. So they didn't do all the stores yet. They're just doing it. They have some prototypes. So they did 25 to 30 fully and 25 to 30 refreshes. So they just did less extensive. So they're not doing them all the same way. And they plan for, okay, that's done. 40 to change locations. So they did 40 locations by March of this year, but they have 660 locations. So this is just starting. And they're also testing a 12-store market in Indianapolis. So I guess they did it fully in Indianapolis to test it out. So again, this is another thing they do. They test it out in certain markets to figure out what works and what doesn't. So $700 million investment. So Avid Hiker dude, your framing is off here. Your information is accurate, but your framing is off. Yes, they did spend $750 million. Now, the stock market loss, let's just say that your number is correct, $257 million. That's paper money. You only actually lost money if you sell the stock. So if I own a stock, let's say I own a stock that is worth $1 billion, and then it goes down $257 million in 1 day. I didn't actually lose any money unless I sell the stock. If I hold on to the stock and it comes back, then I made money. I only made or lost money when I actually make a transaction. If I just hold it, then I didn't really lose anything. I lost it theoretically on paper, but did I actually lose money? I didn't. As far as your $700 million to remodel, that's not a loss. That's an investment. So that's not a loss. The only loss you can note here, quote unquote loss, is $257 million. And again, that's a paper asset. That's not actually, they didn't actually lose money. There's no money that was taken out of their bank account. So that's not a total loss of $957 million. Nice try though, avid hiker. I would say that if you posted this on social media, on X, a bunch of people would like it and co-sign what you said, even though your reasoning is factually inaccurate. The good God stuff said that white people change Popeyes. I don't know. I don't eat at Popeyes. So did Popeyes change? The beauty Maisha said, very comfortable, feel like Nana's house. Yeah, it's like somebody's grandmother's house. That is what it is. Britt said a diner. 50s diner. Okay, fair enough. Madonna Holder said, not a fan of the changes. A lot of people aren't. Jeannie said, can't really see the pics. Whatever, who cares? Well, everybody's been talking about it for the last 2 days. A lot of people care. That's why we're talking about it. Marketingmechanic.com said, I always liked the way it looked before. Me too. Again, I'm not even a customer, but that old Cracker Barrel looks like Cracker Barrel. This new Cracker Barrel looks like any other restaurant in the country. So I would keep the thing that makes me unique. Traditional said, I like the old way. Me too. Britt said, what about the country store? They said they're just refreshing it. They said they still have the store, but I haven't seen a picture of what the new shop looks like. I only saw a picture of the restaurant. So if there's a new shop, anybody got a photo, you tell me. I haven't seen it. The beauty said, my peppermint sticks is gone. What is that? Is that something they sell? CV said they got to have the shop, though. Yeah, they said they still have the shop. I just haven't seen what it looks like when they change it. IT said they're trying to attack the younger demographic. CB attracts older folks. Well, eventually in business, you have to do that. I mean, what if all your customers are old and dying, and now you ain't got any customers? So you, at some point, you have to attract a younger demographic. They have to figure that out one way or another. Heck says CB was unique. I don't think changing the interior will help it look stark. I like the store. Yes, I like the old look of the inside because there's no other restaurant that look like that. Now, this new one that I showed y'all, should I show y'all the photo again? Or what the new one looks like? I don't like the new one simply because, let me see if I can find the picture. The new one just looks like any restaurant in the country. They all look like that. So this is the old Cracker Barrel. There's no other restaurant that looks like this unless it's some mom and pop restaurant, maybe some local place where you live. But there's no national chain to look anything like this. This looks like everybody. Everybody restaurant looks like this. There's nothing unique about this. So I don't like that they changed it for that reason. While at the same time, let me reiterate, just because they changed it does not mean it's not going to work. It might actually work. And then I'll end up saying, okay, I didn't like it, but it worked. So you don't have to like something because it works. And you don't have to dislike it because it didn't work. You can dislike it and it can still work. So we'll see. Coastal said, what's the changes? Well, they're making several changes, just a few that we know about. Britt said, the country store is why I ever went. The food was good too. Yeah, I like the store. I like the touch of the store. I don't think I ever bought anything in the store, but I like the fact that they had it because, again, who else does that? Nobody else does it. Brian Eaton said, I saw Emmitt Smith eating there in the middle of Oklahoma. He froze me in my place. So it makes sense. Where's Emmitt Smith from? I think he's from the South, so it makes sense. Mahek said, in the South, CB has the best biscuits. I believe you. I don't generally eat breakfast as a meal. So CB seems like a breakfast meal type of place to me. I remember I was doing some work for the NBA in like 2017, 2018. And they had me speaking to teams in the G League. And the teams in the G League play in these small-ass towns. Can't remember where I was. I think I was in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is in the top left part of the state. I'm from Philly, which is in the bottom right. But in the top northwest corner of the state, I'm in Erie, PA. And I wanted to get something to eat, and there were no restaurants around. The only restaurant was Cracker Barrel. And I went to Cracker Barrel, and I ate. I didn't really like the food. And like the players, they were staying at the same hotel as me. They were in there eating too. I wasn't talking to them, but I saw them. They saw me. They were in there eating because there's nowhere else to go. Like, you didn't have a choice. And I didn't have a car, so I had to walk over there like under a damn highway overpass and get the food. So those are kind of places where they are located. Kathleen said, it's supposed to look like grandma's kitchen. Now it looks cold. I agree. Let's talk about it. Said they had to change. They were going towards out of business. Well, they weren't not quite out of business, but they were in trouble. Financially, or stock price wise, they were in trouble. And their board of directors said, we got to do something. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll work. GGB, good morning. We'll see. Apple user said they're failing because their quality has slipped and their prices have went through the roof. Apple user, you know what? You're probably right about that, because when I went to Cracker Barrel that time, this was like 7 years ago. It was the last time I ate at Cracker Barrel. The food just wasn't good. I've been to Cracker Barrel before that, maybe 5 years or 6, 7 years before that. And the food was quality. And even though it's not my type of place, the food was quality. When I went the other time, when I was in Erie, Pennsylvania, the food just wasn't good. I was like, this food just doesn't taste right. And the quality of their food probably has gone down. But Apple user, I say that applies to a lot of places. I think a lot of places just got cheaper in how they make their food, the ingredients that they source for their food. They just made it cheaper because it cost them less money. Therefore, they can keep their profits. So I worked at Pizza Hut when I was a teenager, and I remember eating Pizza Hut way after I stopped working there, and I ate the pizza. I was like, this pizza tastes like shit. What is wrong with this pizza? And I could tell that they had changed the quality of their ingredients. So that's one thing that restaurants never announce this, but they often will change the ingredients they put in their food so it looks the same, but it doesn't taste the same. And that, I think that probably happened with Cracker Barrel, because when you're losing money, you do anything to stop that bleed. So maybe they did that. They probably did. User 6336, thanks for the follow. Nee said Taco Bell removed the Taco Bell dog, said it was racist. Oh, because he was speaking Spanish? I remember the Taco Bell dog. Wifey Tips, good morning. 100,000 likes, folks. Is excellent. Thank you. It's Only Me says Sprinkles Cupcakes are famous in Beverly Hills. Okay, I never heard of them. Kel Bell says, sad these companies remove wonderful logos. I miss all the logos that have been removed. I get it. I understand. Richard said, how much has it dropped when she took over? It's dropped 60% more from the date she joined to now. It's been 60% down from then to now, but it was already going down before she got in. So, again, that's why I said it's inconclusive evidence that the stock price has dropped, because it was already dropping. And there may be other changes that need to be made before that turnaround occurs. And as long as she has enough time, maybe she can make it happen. I don't know how long of a leash she's on right now. Dean Dangerous said, define woke. We talked about this already. What you just did there is what we call a Socratic trap, where you're asking a question that's designed to trip up the person to whom you are speaking. But we've already defined this. I did this like probably yesterday, the day before. But let's give a definition again. And I'm pulling it straight from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I'm an absolutist when it comes to definitions. It says, aware of and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. So there, I just defined woke for you, Dean Dangerous. Mental Libtar said, IHOP ran a brand change and it was successful. They ended not change the name, though. Yeah, weren't they calling themselves, what was IHOP trying to call itself at one point? Didn't they try to change the name? I forget what they changed it to. But I remember they did change, I don't know if it was a joke or they were serious. But I guess they brought it back because whatever they tried to change to failed. Scared Hamster says she's woke. How do you know? Kel Bell says, so sad of her. I don't know. We don't have enough information about her. Rascal said, didn't the board hire her and is ultimately responsible? Yeah, so responsibility means they get to hire and fire people. They're not going to be on TV being called out. Who's going to be called out is the CEO. That's the job of the CEO, is that you take the blame and the praise. That's how it goes. Board directors are people who, for the most part, are connected to the people who own the company. They either are big owners and or they are connected to people who are owners, big owners of the publicly held company. And this woman's on the board of directors herself. Boogie Down says, see how you put educated and liberal together. Ha ha. Exactly. Did I? I didn't mention the word educated. Did I? If I did, what did I say? Miss Linda sent the love you so much badge. Thank you. Michael Thomas, thank you for the follow. Dean Dangerous said, that's woke. I don't know what you're referring to. Shannon Nelson, thank you for the follow. Nash Grizz said, why is this even being discussed? It's a restaurant. If you don't like it, don't go. Well, Nash Grizz, if we were using that frame, then no one on social media would be talking at all. There would be no social media. The news wouldn't even exist if this frame of if you don't like the thing, don't talk about it. That's a false frame that you're using there. If someone doesn't like something, they have a right to talk about it. That's protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution, known as the Free Speech Amendment. PK Arnold McFry said, best live on TikTok. Thank you, host. So thank you, PK Arnold. I appreciate it. Dean says, as always, someone makes up a lie about the left and then gets mad about it. He says, as always. Uh-oh, Dean. Uh-oh. Strawberry cheesecake. First of all, I didn't make up a lie about the left. And when I say the left and the right, I've been very clear as to what I mean. People who tend to lean to the left, people who tend to lean to the right, and they out themselves by often talking about and straw manning the other side. So that's when I say the left and the right, that's what I'm referring to. And I'm talking about people specifically who put themselves on that side. And I don't know who you said, as always, someone. So I'm assuming you're referring to me. Then you say gets mad at it. I'm not mad at anything. So you get a double strawberry cheesecake. So that is, you get the Straw Man of the Day award, Dean Dangerous. Congratulations. I don't know if you were aiming for it, but you got it. Melly904 said, it's just the food. What the hell it got to do with politics? Who said it need to have something to do with politics? On these lives, if you're, I don't know why you're saying it that way, but on these lives, I talk about current events. So if the current event happens to be political, we'll talk politics. If the current event is sports, we'll talk sports. If the current event is a social issue, we'll talk a social issue. If the current event is Donald Trump, we'll talk about Donald Trump. But whatever the current event is that I choose, that's what we talk about. But it does not have to be politics. Heck said, I don't think she diagnosed the problem correctly. Well, heck, we don't know her full diagnosis. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. All we know is that she went on TV to defend the change in the branding. They made other changes that they didn't announce to the public. Now, other changes that they did make, you might get if you're, let's say, a shareholder and you read their reports, they'll tell you exactly what they did because they have to, because they're a publicly traded company. But the diagnosis of the problem is not one thing. So, well, heck, your frame here is inaccurate. They have multiple problems with an S on the end, plural problems. So this is one thing they decided to do. But there are probably 30 other things that they also did that we don't know about and that we didn't discuss here today. So, and it's not just her making a decision. The board gets to vote on it. The C-suite gets feedback on it. Their accounting department has something to say. The marketing department has something to say. The people who run the restaurants have something to say. A lot of people get a say in what actually changes and what the problems are. Then they decide, then they go act on it. The CEO is just the one who it falls back on the CEO. Doesn't mean the CEO actually made the decision. But if things work, the CEO gets all the praise. And if things fail, the CEO gets all the blame. So everything goes back to them, but it's not because they are actually making every choice. This is what happens when you're in leadership, is everything gets pinned on you, good or bad, even though you're not the one who actually did it. You just get credit for it or blame. Number one troller said, I think she's lobbing a Hail Mary. It's been a dying brand for years. I mean, the stock price being down doesn't necessarily mean that you're dying. Stock prices are not always in direct correlation to what's happening business-wise, because there are several things that factor into a stock price. And is she lobbing a Hail Mary? I wouldn't say necessarily. And again, I'm not saying she personally is the one who did this. There's a bunch of people also involved in that decision besides her. Because she's the CEO, everyone puts it on her, but it's not just her. Traditional said everything must change eventually. That is a fact. Nash Grizz said they're not abandoning anything. They just updated their dining room SMH. Well, they did abandon something. They abandoned their traditional branding, which is a thing. They updated the way their dining room looks, which means they abandoned the way it was looking. So they did abandon something. This is not true, what you said. Heather G, thanks for the follow. Carolyn Rudder said, if only they would improve their service. Higher prices, smaller portions, declining quality. Well, I bet, Carolyn, that's probably on the menu. Pardon my pun. It's probably on the menu that you need to do that. They probably get a lot of feedback from their customers. Their customers probably tell them, hey, your prices are getting high. Your portions are gotten smaller. The quality of your food is not that good. Your staff is not that good. I'm sure they've heard this. Now, what they're going to do about it is a different story, but I'm sure they know about it. So we'll see. IC705 said, I remember when a Target led the way at a national level, led 50-something-year-old men in a women's, you didn't complete your thought there. My pick slip, thanks for the follow. BC Rab said, demographics have changed the digital world now. They aren't adapting to draw the younger generations. Well, that's a fair criticism of them. Again, I'm not a customer. So I would bet BC Rap that that's probably on the menu too. Something else that they're like, hey, we got to do something about this. How do we get these 25-year-olds to want to come eat here? Or more of them, let's just say. Tom said, CEO is a tough place to be, especially when you step into a problem company. Yes, exactly. You step into a company that's already failing and you're the CEO and the company keeps sliding after you come in. Of course, they're going to keep sliding because the company is very big. It's like driving an 18-wheeler truck. Just because you hopped in the truck and it was already going 70 miles per hour does not mean it's automatically going to stop just because you jumped in the truck. It's still going to be still moving. You hit the brakes. It takes a while for that truck to come to a complete stop. If everybody follows my metaphor here. So everyone wanting to jump on the CEO as if they somehow are the cause of this is incorrect. It's fully factually inaccurate. Tracy X, thanks for the follow. User said, what time and full at everyone ever have to go? What? User, you're going to have to say that again in proper English. I don't understand what you said there. Raven Nation, thanks for the follow. BB, thank you for the share. PK Arnold said, what goes up, what goes down must go up. No, not necessarily. Maybe, hopefully. Miss Linda, traditional Chad, all said they agree. Avery Mickens, thank you for the reposts. I don't see too many repost notifications. Shout out to people reposting. IT Burnout said, white conservative older people. That's what I would guess their audience is. I mean, I'm not saying all of them. Dean Dangerous, are conservatives complaining or not? Well, Dean, all we're going off of is what I saw on social media. So does that count as complaining to you or not? I would say I take it all with a grain of salt. Anything I see on social media, I take with a grain of salt. Does social media reflect what people really believe and what they really think? Generally, I say no, but it does reflect what people are talking about. And especially if I'm hearing something from somebody who is not identified like as an actual person. So if I'm following somebody or I read something on social media from a person and it's really them, like their real name, their real picture, and they give their real bio, their real job, I believe that they believe what they're saying. But then they get 1,000 retweets from a bunch of no-name anonymous accounts. Do those people really believe it? I say probably not. I wouldn't go off of that. And I think we all learned in 2016, November of 2016, that social media commentary is not reflective of what people are really thinking or are really going to do. We learned it again in November of 2024. That social media may seem like everything is going one direction, and then reality tells you it's going another direction. So are people complaining? I think people are talking about it. That's all I would say, Dean. I wouldn't call it complaining. I need to hear from a real live human being to believe it. And social media does not qualify as that. Traditional said everything is takeout. Yeah, I mean, people do still sit down and eat. It's just fewer of them. Eric Maxter, thank you for the follow. What the Ridley said, oh no, guys, you know what happened. They're catering to the next generation that's old, millennials. No, maybe. Dean Dangerous said, Subway isn't fast casual. Okay. Call it what you want. Bujo757, thank you for the share. Diva KBs, thank you for the heart. T made it, thank you for the follow. Mara Missouri, thank you for the share. Lori Lynn said, rebranding is not going to help the one in our town after being closed for salmonella. Well, you're probably right about that for that reason. Red, thank you for the follow. The PR pinup said, ask Grok about how much better the economy was under Biden versus Trump. Well, that's not the topic. If that's ever the topic, then I might ask Grok, but I might not. And again, the economy is a multivariate issue. So you can't pin it. You can't give praise or blame to the president for the economy. There's several different factors and a whole bunch of factors, more than what we're talking about with Cracker Barrel, that factor into how an economy is doing. It ain't just because of the president. Often has very little to do with the president, actually. But most people don't want to admit that because then they would have to actually think critically and go deeper into what is actually causing an outcome rather than putting it on one person or one factor. TikTok Laura said, need to rebrand because it was a good old boy system. I worked for them for 12 years as a manager. Okay, so TikTok Laura said it was a good old boy system and needed to rebrand because of that. Well, Laura, I'm trying to find a connection between the two things. All right, it being a good old boy system and them needing to rebrand those don't necessarily connect. I mean, it looks like you're a female and you were a manager. and you stayed there for 12 years. So what was the problem? Give us more context. Chelsea said, probably just a distinct distraction from the Texas Dems thing. No, maybe. Carla, good morning. Good to see you. Rich McGee said, how does changing a logo make people eat more? Hiring quality people, if possible, would help. Well, changing a logo can give people a different feeling. That's the reason why companies have logos, because it gives people a feeling, an image of what they're about. And that image can be enough to draw people to go into the store. So that's the reason why companies have logos. Kilo, thank you for the follow. Chelsea said, even older people today don't want to be old. Botox, lip fillers, facelift, their usual customer is dying out. Well, it's not all older people, Chelsea. You're talking about older people in the Las Vegases and the New York cities and the Miami beaches and the West Palms. Those people are who you're referring to. But you go to a place that's far from an urban area, old people are actually being old. They're not doing Botox, lip fillers, and facelifts. That's only in big cities. Soccer Ball says CB food is horrible now anyway. That was my assessment the last time I ate there, but I'm not the right person to ask. Milton Hudson, thank you for the follow. Carolyn Rudder said, if they don't improve their service and quality, window dressing isn't going to help. I agree. Lahek says, sounds like Steak and Shake would like CB to fail. No, Lahek, what Steak and Shake is doing is taking advantage of one of their competitors doing something that they think is a wrong move, and they're jumping on it to virtue signal by bashing their competitor. That's all they're doing. Would they like CB to fail? They might like CB to fail because then more roads lead to Steak and Shake. But that's not why they made that post. They made that post a virtue signal and use it as an opportunity for PR for themselves. Taria Hamilton said they are losing money because quality and service has gone down. It has nothing to do with branding. I think it's a combination of all of the above. It's not just quality and service, it's also the brand. And this shakeup might cause people, another thing when you rebrand and you change the look of what you're doing, it causes people to look at you differently and say, okay, well, since they changed the facade of what they have, the outside look, maybe something changed on the inside. Let me go find out. That might cause people to go back to the restaurant who were thinking they weren't going to come back. Now they go back and they like it and they say, okay, Cracker Barrel is different. I'll keep coming to Cracker Barrel. So sometimes an outside surface level change can cause people to reconsider you who had decided that they had sworn you off. So these are all things you got to keep in mind. William Perry, thank you for the follow. Chelsea says CBay did surveys before updating anything. They know what their ideal customer wants from them. I'm sure they probably did do surveys. Let's assume that you're telling the truth here, Chelsea. At the same time, they have customers who they can't survey because they aren't customers and they're not in touch with those people. So they are at the same time making changes and they have to test and see how does the public respond. That's the reason why they're testing the urban area of Indianapolis to see how those rebranded restaurants do in that area. And if they like it, then they'll test another area, another, and another. What the Ridley said, changing with the times, we're the old people now. Yeah, probably. Traditional said food service business is expensive. Well, if you're not making a profit, it's expensive. That's correct. Ronald Fowler said they're completely dialed in. You have to wait almost every time, and their market is special. I don't know what that means. Thank you for the follows. JK, McKenzie, Clevy J, Starheart, Darcy Keys. Thank you for the follow. Christian said, I'm going to count your logical fallacies. Don't count them, call them out. If I use a logical fallacy, call it out and tell me what it was. Let's see. I'm trying to catch where I was in the comments. Here we go. Hey, thanks for the follow. Marky said, love that cheesecake. What cheesecake? What are you talking about? I'm okay. Good morning. Joxana said, I have a strawberry cheesecake in the fridge. Did I mention cheesecake? Why are y'all talking about cheesecake? Steven said, Steven, thanks for the follow. Nikki said, Dre, Mercedes fix your tire at no cost. No, it was a nail in the tire, so I had to pay for it. There was a nail in the tire, and I didn't have the tire protection, so I had to pay for it. So, but that tire is now protected because I bought a new one. So that's what happened. I did get a discount on it, though. BL Stone, thanks for the follow. Carla said they should have put a family with a couple kids playing on that logo. I don't know about that. Joe Schmo, thanks for the follow. Carla said, hopefully they took the women's clothing out and put back the kids' stuff. User said, the old stores are more welcoming. The new version is cold. I would generally agree with that, but we'll see how the public responds. What really matters is how the general public responds to what they did. IT said, I wonder if they can upgrade my cell phone while not dying. What does that even mean? Goldie said, I don't get what the big deal is. Everything that we're talking about. Joe said, did they keep the sticky peg game? I remember those games. I don't know. It's a good question. Jennifer Graves, good morning. We're at 110K. Thank you, traditional all day. 100K, yes. Carl said, they used to have a wall of old-fashioned candy and toys, and my kids loved it. Hopefully they kept that. We'll see. Bougie Farmer said, it reminds me of home in the farm. Yeah, well, hopefully. Well, we'll see what they do. Because they didn't remodel all the stores yet. They're only testing right now. John Christie said, you got a big brain.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
I think you're being sarcastic, but I do have a big brain. You're right. So I appreciate the compliment. CC said, the only thing they need to change is the quality of the food has been going downhill. Well, as we can see, they already changed a whole bunch of other things already, but we'll see. Carol Ann Collins said, KFC food, same thing. Yes, I think what's happened with a lot of food companies is that they have changed the sourcing of their products. And they went to lower quality products because it costs less money. Therefore, they get to maintain more profit. Bougie Farmer said, I was surprised they added alcohol to the menu. Cracker Barrel has alcohol in the menu? I didn't know that. Carlos said, what happened to hamburger? Grimace used to be in every McD commercial. Yeah, they stopped using them a long time ago. I don't know when. IT Burnout said it was IHOB and that was a prank. Okay, so it was a prank. Because I remember they did do something different, but I didn't know if it was for real or they were joking. They were joking, okay. That makes sense. I think they did it. That was like was that a, what do they call it? April Fool's Day? Dalton Morris, thank you for the follow. Mr. Ohio J said, I think it was IHOB for International House of Breakfast. Was it breakfast or burgers? I thought it might have been burgers. I remember when they did it, and I thought that's crazy. But it turns out, I think it was a joke. If I remember correctly, it was a joke, and IT said it was a joke. I think it was. Sean Renee 12, thanks for the follow. Jay Monique said it was IHOB as a marketing stunt. What did the B stand for? Was it breakfast or burgers? Kuya Ben, thank you for the lightning bolt. S&W Farms, thank you for the heart. Jay said, Trump is dividing this country like no one else has. Strawberry cheesecake. You get a straw man award, Jay, just for bringing up Trump when he's not even the topic. All right, so any of you ever asked why you talking about Trump, Dre? I'm not talking about Trump at all. Somebody brought Trump up for no reason and criticized him for no reason.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
He's not even the topic. KC Mummy and Leslie, thank you for the follows. Frankenstein said, look at Red Lobster. The CEO rebranded. Now they are a popular restaurant again. How popular are they, Frankenstein 716? Red Lobster is popular again? How do you quantify their popularity? I know they brought in that guy, the Nigerian guy, the black Nigerian guy to Red Lobster. I think the problem with Red Lobster is bigger than the CEO. And it's not even so much the rebranding. They didn't change their logo. At least I don't think they did. Is that guy had a video and said, we're going to do all these things. And we have this type of changes to the menu. We're going to do this and that. All of that is PR. All that's just marketing to get people excited to possibly come back to the restaurant. But what made them popular again, Frankenstein, I don't know what you mean by that. I don't eat at Red Lobster. Didn't before, and him being the CEO ain't changing it. Carolyn said, do you speak on the Target CEO? No, Target was possibly the topic here today, but I changed it at the last minute. I changed it talking about Cracker Barrel. So I might talk about Target on Monday. I might. It's Suge. Good morning. Suge is in Work on Your Game University. So any of you want to know, are there real people there? Yes, there are. Dr. Fred said, rebranding is going to be a waste of millions in rebranding costs. Well, we won't know until it's over. And there may be a long tail response from what happens. Any of you read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins? You find out how big publicly traded companies, their changes, what effects of those changes. You don't find out till years later. It's not like the next day you find out the effect of a change. Kathleen said, I'm 59, I choose to grow old gracefully. Well, see, there you go. Everybody ages. Most people age gracefully, meaning they don't try to undo the effects of aging through cosmetic fixes. Now, you could do things like work out, eat healthy, exercise. Those aren't cosmetic fixes. When I say cosmetic, I mean artificial things like facelifts, Botox, plastic surgery, etc. I'm not knocking you if you do it. I live in South Florida. If I knocked people who did that, I wouldn't have any friends. I'm not saying any names. But that's how most people just let it happen as it happens. Simply Farm said, I've done some contracting work for CB and have asked the managers what's the story behind the name, and none of them could tell me why it's called Cracker Barrel. Oh, well, maybe they don't know. Stephen Jackson said, I appreciate you have pointed out that it does not appear to be a political move. No, how is it going to be political? I mean, they're losing money. Losing money is not political. It's financial. Stacey Ann said, I buy their salt and pepper shakers. They're 99 cents. Okay, I didn't know that. Oh, Terica said cheesecake is a straw man noise. Oh, okay. I was wondering why y'all was talking about cheesecake. My straw man noise is a cheesecake. That is correct. Bo from Bar Insurance said Wendy's changed chicken patty. They did. A lot of restaurants are doing that. Fast food, fast casual, and sit down. They're changing the quality of the ingredients because the ingredients that they change to cost less money. Therefore, they get to keep more money so they can stay in business. That's the problem. Customers don't like it, but that allows them to stay in business, at least by their theory, by the way that they're doing their business. Tristan said Red Lobster crab boils made them popular. I thought it was the muffins or the biscuits that made Red Lobster popular. I thought it was the biscuits. The people just like the biscuits. Last time I was at Red Lobster was probably 15 years ago, and I remember liking the biscuits, but my memory may be off. Memory may be fuzzy. I don't eat a Red Lobster. I don't eat a Cracker Barrel. I don't like eating at a lot of restaurants because restaurants use, what's the stuff that they use that the health people are always talking about? Seed oils. They cook their food in seed oils. So if you know anything about health, I don't know a ton. I'm no health expert, but I am healthy, is that the seed oils that a lot of food gets cooked in, especially at places where they make the food quickly, i.e. restaurants and fast food places, they cook the food in seed oils. And from what I've heard, seed oils are not good for you. So people are trying to, so not people, let me not say that. Let me see if I can find out about these. Because there's a whole conversation about it. Give me a brief overview on seed oils and where they are often used, especially in restaurants, and what is bad about them that causes health experts to tell people to avoid taking in too much of it. So it's a seed oil situation that is really the issue that causes me to be wary of restaurants these days. Mental Libtar said, IHOP pretended to change this comment. It was successful, no change in the end. Okay. Stephen Jackson, I agree with you. Thank you. Jennifer said the biscuits at Red Lobster and tartar sauce. Now, I don't like tartar sauce, but I did like the biscuits. Classy said it was the cheddar biscuits that hyped up Red Lobster. I remember the biscuits. Gemini said seed oils introduced equal obesity rate skyrocketed. That's what I've heard, amongst many other things. Bo says seed oils are inflammatory, often made with GMOs. I've heard that as well. Classy says seed oils clog up your arteries. I've heard that too. Gemini says seed oils allow food establishments to cut costs. Also heard that. So it's a whole lot of things about seed oils. So here's what I just looked up on. This is according to ChatGPT. Everything y'all said is true. I've heard those things. Seed oils, often called vegetable oils, are industrial oils extracted from seeds such as soybean, corn, canola, sunflower, safflower, and cottonseed. They became popular in the 20th century. That's the 1900s. Is that right? 1900s? Yes. As cheap cooking fats and are now extremely common in restaurants and packaged foods. Pay attention, everybody. This is the last point, then we're going to end this. Where they are used in deep fryers. So any of you buy anything that's deep fried, such as French fries, fried chicken, potato chips, and wings, are often cooked in seed oils. Why? Because they're cheap and they're fast. Salad dressings, mayonnaise, seed oils. Sauces, marinades, condiments, seed oils. Processed foods, potato chips, crackers, baked goods, seed oils. Quote unquote healthy options. Grilled vegetables are often made in seed oils. Protein bowls often get cooked in seed oils. So what experts say, 4 things. Number 1, they are high in omega-6 fatty acids. They are dense in linoleic acid, also known as omega-6. Small amounts are necessary, but excess intake creates imbalance, which may promote chronic inflammation. What happens with a lot of people as they get older is they're dealing with all types of inflammation. That's because of the food that you eat. Oxidation when heated. So industrial seed oils are unstable under high heat, such as when they're deep fried, which is how your French fries get made. That creates harmful compounds, such as aldehydes, that damage the cells of your body. So when you eat French fries, you're killing yourself. Industrial processing. Most are heavily refined, often bleached, deodorized. They involve high heat and chemical solvents. So in other words, they use chemicals to bleach them, deodorize them, and keep them refined. It strips away the nutrients, and all it leaves is the byproducts. And that's what you put in your body when you eat this junk. And is linked to health issues. So studies associate high seed oil consumption with increased risk of obesity, heart disease, insulin resistance, gut inflammation, and largely through inflammatory pathways. These are all things I've heard about seed oils. Now, why restaurants use seed oils? Because they're cheap, they're self-stable, and they're neutral in flavor. But they're amongst the least healthy things you can eat regularly. So this is one of the reasons why I generally don't like eating at restaurants, especially everyday restaurants like Red Lobster, Applebee's, Outback, Cracker Barrel, especially these big chain restaurants. They have to keep their costs down because they have hundreds of locations and they got to normalize their costs so that they can stay in business. So they use a whole bunch of cheap shit in their food and they feed it and sell it to you. And you are destroying yourself by eating that nonsense. And that's how they stay in business. This is why America has an obesity problem. So any of you who is not from America or any of you who has traveled at all, you go to other countries, you don't see nearly as many obese people in other places that you see here. And we are allegedly the richest country in the world. Why do we have all these unhealthy, obese people? Is because we eat a whole lot of junk and we eat too much. You go to a restaurant in America, they give you way too much food, and we have been conditioned to complete what is in front of us. So they give you a plate full of food, you eat all the plate, even though you need about half of that for your meal. You go to a high quality restaurant, you order food, a high end restaurant, the amount of food you get is like this much food. You go to Applebee's or Outback or Red Lobster, they give you like twice as much food. Now you think you're getting more bang for your buck. No, you're actually hurting yourself for your buck. They're giving you more junk because it's cheaper for them to give you the junk. Therefore, they can give you more of it because it doesn't cost them as much money. And then they charge you for it, and you're paying to basically destroy yourself by eating that nonsense. So I would say, if you just want my opinion, stay away from these restaurants, period. Especially national chain large restaurants, Applebee's, these kind of places, Outback Steakhouse, Cracker Barrel, McDonald's, Wendy's, Subway. They all use junk. They use junk. That's how they can have so many locations, because they sell junk and there's enough people buying the junk that will keep eating it and destroying themselves. And then they get used to it and they feel bad if they're not eating it. They get addicted to the garbage. If you read or watched anything on food, the food industry in the United States of America, go watch these documentaries. You can find them on YouTube. They're on Netflix. They're on Amazon. That a lot of the food that we eat, that we call food, is not actual food. It's a bunch of manufactured chemically processed garbage. And you're putting this in your body and calling it food. Is not actual food. Anyone who's from overseas, especially in places like Europe, that I've heard people say it about Europe, eat pasta in America. All of you have eaten pasta in America. Go to Italy and eat pasta. I think I heard Joe Rogan say this. He was in Italy. He ate some pasta and it tasted completely different. And he didn't have the same side effects the next day that he gets when he eats pasta in America. Go eat a tomato in some European country where they have actual tomatoes grown in actual soil that's not destroyed by pesticides and chemicals like here in America. The food tastes completely different. Eat fruit in another country and then eat the fruit in America and you taste the difference. Even the organic stuff we eat here is full of junk because our soil has all this pesticide in it. And the process that it takes to get it from the ground to the table is often a whole lot of nonsense that it goes through to make it cheaper and to make it last longer so that they can sell it to more people out of your favorite grocery stores. And we're all susceptible to this. So all of you need to watch what you're putting in your body to let you live longer. So anybody who's traveled knows this. So Kathleen says seed oils are linked to Alzheimer's. I've heard that. Giraffe said people are fickle, get them a distraction with their favorite celebrity. Also true. Bo said they don't use them in Europe either. It was very interesting if you look at their health. Yeah, they don't use them because they're not chasing a dollar. They use them in America because we have this capitalistic society where everything's about money, and anything I can do to cut costs and keep more of my money, I'm going to do. This is the system that we're in. And I'm not against capitalism, but this is one of the trade-offs of capitalism is that you get people trying to cut costs by selling you garbage. Gemini said a lot of restaurants in Texas converting to tallow, old timers oil. Yeah, tallow is like the better stuff, like beef tallow, which is better stuff to cook food in, but it costs more money. That's the issue. That's why a lot of companies don't use it. Kathleen said the healthcare pharmaceutical companies get richer. Yes, that's the system. So they sell you the garbage food. You get sick. You go to the doctor in the pharmacy. They sell you some pharmaceuticals to keep you healthy. Now you got to keep buying the pharmaceuticals so you can stay alive for the rest of your life. You keep eating the junk, and it's this perpetuating cycle in which they're making money and using you at the same time. But heck, said I usually get 2 or 3 meals from a restaurant meal. But heck, I would suggest you don't get restaurant meals at all. But I get what you're saying. Yes, they give you a whole bunch of food. They give you more food than you need to eat. Robbie said, you signed my copy of the third day. I was the first to purchase a copy. Even says not for resale. Oh, yeah, I remember that, Robbie. That book came out. I think I put that out in 2021. I remember that book that I signed for you. Coaster Girl, thanks for the follow. Sherry said, just came back from Italy. The food is amazing. I believe Gemini says, stay away from oats. Most heavily sprayed with, any kind of processed food. Anything that comes in a package or a bag, is some garbage, especially in America. So all that said, folks, want to get one of my books. Robbie mentioned this book, The Third Day. This one is for resale. You get the book for free. Just cover the shipping. Go to thirddaybook.com. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. Thirddaybook.com. Anyone who is a professional at what you do, you're going to have days you don't feel like being at work. This book is about how do you systemically and strategically bring yourself to give your best effort on that day. You can do that. You become a true pro. Go to thirddaybook.com. Mirrorofmotivation.com. This book is the self-guide, the self-discipline. How do you move yourself to be the person you need to be so you can do what you need to do to have what you want to have in life? Being, doing, having, in that order. Mirrorofmotivation.com. This book is all about the being, get you into that right space mentally. For those of you who are into sales, those of you who are more entrepreneurial, sales discipline system. This book is all about how do you use the 8 key disciplines of top salespeople in any industry. Say goodbye to up and down months and inconsistent habits. Go to salesdisciplinebook.com. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Salesdisciplinebook.com. This one is mirrorofmotivation.com. This is thirddaybook.com. Go to the link in my profile on any one of these applications, and you will see a page that has links to all of these books. So just go to the description in YouTube or the links in my profile on these other apps, and you will see a page that has links to all of these. Salesdisciplinebook.com, mirrorofmotivation.com, thirddaybook.com. Each one of these books we give away for free. We just ask that you cover the shipping. We will send you a physical copy of any one of these books. Just cover the shipping. We'll get it to you in the mail. So I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, everybody. So if you like this one, be back on Monday. We will eventually get to talking about Target. We didn't get to it today. And whatever else is happening in the news. Make sure you are, thank you everybody for liking the live. We did 117,000 likes today. Thank you to the moderators and the regulars who are always in here liking the live. I appreciate you. The replays to this live will be on my YouTube channel. I'm live on YouTube over here. Replays are always on YouTube. So anything I tell you I talked about in the past is on my YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me in at least one other platform. Instagram, my link is in my profile on TikTok. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble Studio, X. My X name is Dre All Day. That's where I do most of my social media activity. If I'm actually engaging with people, that is on X, at Dre All Day. That's the town square of the internet. So current events, I'm usually finding out about them by what's happening over on X. I will see everybody Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great weekend. Work on your game. We are out of here.